You would all be happy to know that I just filmed about 3 minutes of this conversation and did not have the microphone picked up. It's been a long day. And I'm quite delusional. So we're gonna try to make it through this video. I cannot make any promises here. I cannot believe I sat here and was having a full-blown conversation. And then looked down, I was like, oh shoot, I don't even have the mic in my hand. So like, anyway, hello, welcome to the realm of lit comments, not lit kids. When I tell y'all, literally, it has been the longest day on this freaking planet. Welcome to the realm of kidlit comics, bro. I don't think I'm gonna make it through this video, but we're gonna try very, very hard. This is my March wrap up. I was saying before I realized I didn't even have the mic that this is a little late. I mean, by social media standards, this is late, but by my standards, bitch, I'm right on time. Because I'm always late with everything, because I can never get my shit together, and YouTube is going to flag this video because I've cussed like twice within the first 5 minutes. Ask me how much I care, because it's not like I make money off of this, so it's just perfectly fine. This is a hobby. All right, so we're here to talk about March wrap up. This is going to be relatively short because clearly I can't even hold myself together while filming this, but also I vlogged most of what I read in March. March was middle grade March, and I did 2 vlogs, a part 1 and a part 2. And predominantly what I read in March was middle grade. I think whenever I get to the percentages, you'll see, like, it was predominantly middle grade. And so I don't want to rehash that content because I've already filmed that content. If you're interested in checking out particular reviews, I'll make sure that I link both of those vlogs down in the description box below, and probably somewhere in the card symbol if I could ever remember how to, to do that, because I often say that and then by the time it's uploaded to YouTube, I'm like, oh yeah, I said I was going to upload that in the card symbol and I completely forget. So let's talk a little bit about stats. I ended up reading 53 books in March. That number seems obnoxious, but remember, I am a librarian who is all about get lit. I promise you this is not going to be a whisper ASMR video, but I have to always point that out to people because my numbers seem kind of outrageous sometimes, and that's because I'm reading across a variety of age categories, and it's predominantly kid lit, right? So that reads differently, it reads faster. This is not me justifying what I do, because once again, ain't nobody here checking me at the door, no nonsense like that. But I feel like sometimes an explanation does help some people kind of process, like, wait, 53 books, that's wild. Understand the age category that I am reading from, and so some material is going to be a little bit easier to make it through. I do read picture books. Those do count into my total books read. I do track those things because it does help me in my job. A lot of reading I do is work related. I do read for pleasure, and I do get pleasure out of reading for work, but understand it is to help me be better prepared to do my job and to support the individuals that I'm supposed to be supporting in the role that I play in my system. So all that being said, 53 books read in the month of March. Pages read was 9,145 pages, which is, I think, my largest amount yet for the year, because middle grade March pushed me to kind of do a little bit more. I listened to 93.5 hours worth of audio, and only one of my books was a reread. I don't believe I said this already. I may have said this when the mic wasn't in my hands, but my statistical information is brought to you specifically by Allie at Hardback Quarter, okay? That's the only reason why this data exists, because if it wasn't for her, I'm telling you right now, it would not be a thing. Promise you that. Let's talk a little bit about the sources and then a little bit about the age categories. And I think for the most part, that's where I kind of stopped with the data. There's a lot more data than that, but I will save that for like quarterly, like midway year and then end of year check-in. I'm not going to go into the deep stats, but I listened to 15 books on audio. Well, clearly, I mean, like, how You get what I mean. So 15 were audiobooks, 9 were ebooks, and 29 were physical. So we're still predominantly doing ebook and physical, which was my goal for the year. Not that there's anything wrong with audiobook listening. That was just a personal goal that I did not mention to anyone, that I had just for me. In terms of what, like the age category and audience, we have 5 that are adult. The 2 that I have in YA, I'm going to explain, because in all actuality, they're not, it's hard because they have a crossover appeal, right? They could sit in middle grade or they could sit in YA. It depends on how you perceive each thing, right? So I put them as YA because for me, they personally felt more YA, but there's reasoning behind that. Middle grade was 25 and children's almost rivaled it with 21 books, and that's primarily like chapter books and also picture books. Those sit in our children's category. I read 57% diverse titles, which I always try to keep it over 50, which is in comparison to everything that I've been doing all year long. So, you know, that's always great. Still reading a good amount of nonfiction. I did 9 this month, which is more than I did in January and February. I'm trying to make sure that I keep my nonfiction going, right? Because I think I did not do as well with nonfiction last year, and I wanted to make sure that I did that this year. Just kind of keeping those things in mind. All right, let's delve into the different categories and what I read for the month of March. I'm going to go ahead and let you know right now, as per usual, I divide my things up by age category. It is picture book content, children's meaning early chapter books, then middle grade, then young adult, and then I do graphic novels, comics, and manga. When I do my April wrap up, that graphic novels, manga, and comic section is going to be longer than any other category because we are in the midst of 30 and 30. So you'll see a whole host of things, and I'm also changing up my YA stuff for this month because I realized I didn't read any true general like YA in March, and so I feel like that age category got a little neglected because, of course, it's middle grade March. It happens. All right, so I'm not going to really talk about the picture books or give you the rating. Typically for picture books, I stick with the 3, 4, or 5, right? I rarely ever drop below a 3. There have been instances where I drop below a 3, but it's not something that's typically common. And I will point out some that I think were like my favorites for the month. So we're starting with Black Joy, Mama Hug, Make Your Mark, Ruby Bridges, A Talk with My Teacher, Yvonne Clark and Her Engineering Spark, Space for Everyone, The Edie Bag, The Month of Ramadan, Sunday, Prince Among Slaves, When I Hear Spirituals, Sharing the Dream, Mixed Feelings, Me and Other Bunnies, Love is a Big Feeling, Henna Is, and Heartfelt. I do feel like I'm missing a couple of picture books, but you know what? It is what it is. It's hard to track these sometimes, right? I try my best to track as much as I can, but sometimes I am casually reading a picture book, whether it is on the clock or off the clock, and it just gets lost. Like I've read it and I'm like, oh yeah, I did read that, but there's no documentation there. So that does happen. I mean, there were books that I read last year that never got documented, and I was like, oh yeah, I did read that, but I forgot that I read it because I don't have it documented. So if I had to pick favorites for the month of March, I would definitely say Sunday. The artwork in this one was exquisite. It was a 2024 release. Most of these that I did read are 2025 releases, but I had the occasional 2024 release that I just didn't get to. Sunday is one of those books. It's beautiful. The artwork is beautiful, and it literally is just slice of life, a family doing things on a Sunday, a boy using his imagination. But the artwork was just beautiful. I will also say that When I Hear Spirituals, Loved that one so much because it talked about the importance of spirituals to the Black community, and there was like a narrative side, and then there was a side of the page, I believe it was the left side, that was just like a regular narrative, and then the right side was actual lyrics from spirituals. And there's a lot of great back matter in that one. And then there were a couple of great informational picture books that I ended up reading, but those were two that really stood out to me as favorites, and I believe that those were the two that I ended up giving 5 stars for the month of March. So we do have more in our children's section, and that's because baby girl has moved on from reading. She hasn't moved on. I think that's the wrong way for me to phrase it. She hasn't moved on from reading picture books, but she has wanted and she's shown interest in exploring children's chapter books. And I love that for her. I think that that is so important. I think that that is amazing, and that she is ready to sit for longer storytelling. Downside for me is that I have to do all the voices of the characters. And while some of you had told me that I have a great voice for audiobook reading, my child has literally put me to the test, and I realized I do not have a broad range of voices. And now I'm wanting to like listen to different voices so that I'm better prepared to do these books, because I literally make it up as I go, and I have so much more respect for audiobook narrators who do very dynamic voices for each and every character that pops up in a book, because oh my gosh, that is so hard. Being a voice actor is no joke, and I'm not a voice actor, but my child is putting me up to the test of becoming a voice actor, and so I'm going with it. So as a result, you probably will start to see more in the children's section that I read with her, and more that I read by myself, just to have good read alouds for her as her bedtime reading. These books are longer, but not as long as middle grade. They usually are just maybe a little over 100 pages, lots of illustrations, big font. It's to encourage that early reading. So the first one that we have is Sam Squirrel. This appears to be the first in a new fantasy series. I was okay with this one. I gave it 3 stars. I wasn't necessarily a huge fan of it. It literally follows a squirrel who is a part of this community, this animal community that has been visited by Mother Nature. And he becomes enthralled with her. He loves making lists. And then one winter, they notice that winter just never stops. And that's a problem because spring needs to come in order for them to be able to access food. And so they have a meeting about it. And Sam Squirrel decides that he is going to go with this. Is he an elk? I can't listen, because there's a point where he gets called everything but what he is. And I'm pretty sure he's an elk, not a moose. I think he's an elk. I might be wrong on that small little detail, but I'm pretty sure he's an elk. And so the two of them venture off to find Mother Nature in order to get her to stop winter from happening and to usher in spring. And they end up encountering Mother Nature's granddaughter, and the story kind of goes from there. It wasn't that I like completely disliked the book. It just wasn't as engaging as the other ones that we read like in the month of March, surprisingly. And we started with the Sam Squirrel book. If you have a young kid that is interested in fantasy and loves anthropomorphic creatures, like this is a good fit for them. They would really enjoy this, but it just was not my jam as much as I thought it was going to be, so I just gave it 3 stars. For that, we got our first one that I really enjoyed, and that was Eliza and the Flower Fairies. This is Meg McDonald's newest series. Meg McDonald is known for Judy Moody and also Stink, and I had not read either one of those series. Very familiar with them, but just never had a strong interest in picking them up. But this one I was interested in because I have found that I think I'm raising a fantasy reader. I can't tell yet, but she shows a stronger interest in things that are fantasy based. We loved this book. It was phenomenal. Not quite a 5-star read. It was 4 stars, and I'm saying this as an adult reviewer, but I bet you if I was to bring her down here and ask her what she would rate it, she would give it 5 out of 5 stars. It follows a main character by the name of Eliza, who really likes journaling, and then we follow her on this adventure as she meets these fairies, and the fairies are all named after flowers, and she goes with specifically one fairy, and then they run into some issues with they're like witches. It was very interesting, but there was this sweet little twist at the end where it was almost as if, was this real or was it not real, right? Was this all in her imagination? Was she writing a story, or did this really happen? I thought that was really, really neat and absolutely adored it. The illustrations were so good. They were beautiful. And this one, I had a really fun time doing the voices for, and I think my kid really enjoyed that, and it kept her really, really engaged. But I'm excited for the next book in that series, and I'm looking forward to when that's going to come out. This literally just came out in January, I think, so we probably won't get another book until next year, unless they did one of those like 2-book deals where the books just come out within a single publishing year, but we probably won't get the next one until next year. After that, we ended up reading Leroy Ninker Saddles Up. These are the longer books that follow the Mercy Watson series, right? So the Mercy Watson series is really young, 5-6 years old. I would say 5, 6, 7. They're really good reads for 5, 6, 7. I have read all of the Mercy Watson books, and funny enough, my kiddo hasn't. But when we were at the library, yes, she does have me go to my job when I'm off, but it's fine. It's just the name of the game. We saw Leroy Ninker Saddles Up, and I don't know if it was on display or if it was sitting somewhere else. I think it was on display on like an early chapter book display. And she picked it up and she was like, ooh, this one looks interesting. So this is Tales from Decawoo Drive, which follows some of those minor characters that we see from Mercy Watson. So Mercy Watson and her family do make an appearance in this book, but it follows Leroy, who we initially see in one of the Mercy Watson books. So I thought it was just, the interconnectedness was relatable, and I kind of like that Kate DiCamillo, she aged it up. Like, so if you grew up reading Mercy Watson, then you have like this series to look forward to as an early chapter. There's nothing like super serious to it. Once again, it tested my limits on what I'm able to do vocally in real louds, and we are following Leroy as he goes to acquire a horse. Like, he's a cowboy, but he doesn't have a horse, so then he goes to acquire a horse, and then he has to get used to this horse. This horse has very particular things that it needs, and it's about them bonding and getting to know each other. I thought it was really, really cute. She really, really loved it, and so we ended up giving that one 4 stars. And then following that one up, we read another fantasy-esque one called Hocus and Pocus and the Spell for Home. This one kind of solidified the fact that I might be raising a fantasy reader, because what I do is I'll check out some early children's chapter books, and I have, like, you know, the not tuberculosis, but the TBR card that everyone has in their videos. I have one of those. I don't use it for video purposes. I just need extra storage for books, for library books. And so I keep the early chapter books on that cart, and whenever we finish one, I allow her to kind of like pick one out. And she went for this one. She was like, oh, Hocus and Pocus, like Hocus Pocus. She loves Hocus Pocus. I think between fantasy and paranormal, like, that's gonna be her jam, because she literally picked this book out because it said Hocus and Pocus. She was like, oh my gosh, is it gonna have witches? And I was like, probably. And in fact, it does. It follows 2 dogs named Hocus and Pocus, their brother and sister, and they are looking for a new home, and they get into a lot of mischief. They are funny, they are engaging, they try to do their own spells, but they don't have anywhere to call home, and there are magical slightly magical is the correct term to use. They're slightly magical dogs. But it was fun reading it. Once again, the illustrations in this were really, really fun. I think that this is just like an introduction. We gave it 4 stars. It's very like getting to know them, kind of brief looks at the world. We already finished the second one. Spoiler alert. We finished the second one already for the month of April. We really enjoyed it. She's looking forward to the third one, but doesn't come out until 2026. And then that one, you get to see a broader range of characters and the community itself. But it's good. If you have a younger reader that likes paranormal-esque things, this will be a good fit for them. Okay, so now my mouth is so dry. We're going to delve into the middle grade. I'm not going to talk about these at all. I'm literally going to tell you what I read. That's why I said this wrap up is going to be super short, because predominantly what I read in March was middle grade. And I've already talked about all these books, and I promise you I'm not going to sit here and do it again. But I'm going to tell you what I read. And then there's 2 that I want to talk a little bit more about that kind of have this young adult appeal to them as well. And I want to explain why I put those specific titles. So let's talk about the ones that I have specifically in the middle grade category and just saying them out loud. We have Tryouts, Dear Run Home, A-OK, Redbird Dance, When We Flew Away, and then Boom, Very Bad at Math, Almost Sunset, Same Page, Nat Enough, History Smashers, The Mayflower, Listen to This, Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky, which I have a physical copy, and editing me will appreciate it. Thank you. The School for Wicked Witches, which technically I did DNF, but I made it through like 75% of that book and DNF'd it. Never done that before. That was a first. The Diamond Explorer, Mystery of the Midnight Rider, Power to the Parasites, 5 stars, immaculate. I don't do creepy crawly, but that book was amazing. Fresh Start, Deep Water, The Night Mother, The Girl Who Sang, Once Upon a Thriller, Somebody's Someone, The Sherlock Society, and Uprising. So those were all of the middle grade March books that I read. However, there were 2 that I put into young adult, one being A for Effort, which is the sequel to, what is that the sequel to? I can't believe I'm sitting here forgetting that. A-OK. The reason why I put this one in young adult is that it does take place during the main character's freshman year of high school. I feel like thematically, if read a little bit older, this doesn't mean that you can't give it to a middle grade audience, because middle grade is 8 through 12. And so I do think that a 12-year-old could handle the content, but it definitely would fit better for 13 and 14, right? Which is on the younger side of young adult, which I do appreciate, because it is in this industry a little bit more difficult to find books for that 10 to 14 age category. And honestly, I do think that A for Effort does fit well. I think 10-year-old, it might be a little bit more difficult to relate to someone in their freshman year of high school, but you know, the upper end of that middle grade, lower end of YA, I do think that that one would be a good fit, which I do talk about in that video. I also put The Myth Makers in young adult. This is it's nonfiction, and it's kind of a graphic novel, kind of not a graphic novel. It's one of those like mixture of things, which I always say when publishers do stuff like this, like they absolutely hate librarians, because when you put stuff out like this, it's like, oh, how are we supposed to catalog this? Like, what collection is this supposed to go in? Y'all just make this. It makes our life so much more difficult, and I wish they would stop doing it. Not really. I'm just playing, because it really is an excellent format, especially for people who are reluctant to get into nonfiction, because it can feel kind of overwhelming. The Myth Makers, I think young adults and adults would really appreciate it. It's about the relationship and the friendship between Tolkien and Lewis. And granted, I learned so much, because to be quite transparent, I did not know that the two of them had such a strong relationship with each other. And then like kind of talking about the fallout that happened between the two of them. Very subtle fallout, but a fallout nevertheless. Not really getting the opportunity to make amends. And I do think that the way that the author kind of tied the story up was really, really brilliant, and I enjoyed it. But this is not a book that I would hand to an 8-year-old. It's too dense. It's too much content wise. Yes, maybe 11, 12, depending upon the reader and their strength in reading, because even for me, conceptually, understanding the beginnings of the genre of fantasy was a lot to process. But there are 11 and 12-year-olds that I think could handle it. But I really do think a young adult audience would really, really appreciate this. And so because it covers such a broad range of ages, I kind of was like, I would just say young adult. And even for me, when I originally like selected this, I was like, oh, this would be great for like our, you know, like middle grade graphic novel collection. And then I was like, maybe not so much, you know? So there's that. But those are the two that technically I put in our young adult category, but depending upon a number of factors, they also could sit in a middle grade collection. So there's that. So I only have that our last category, which is graphic novels, manga, and comics. I did not read a lot in this category. This I keep for the adult graphic novels, comics, and manga, right? Because there were a lot of middle grade graphic novels that I ended up reading in March. Not as many as I wanted, but still, they are sufficiently represented in that category. This is for the adult type of things, but that I do talk about on this channel. I did read several, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I read 4 adult novels this month. I don't cover them here. I save those for Patreon. I talk about all of my adult material stuff on Patreon at this point. But for the adult graphic novels, manga, and comics, I do keep them here. So I did end up reading The Married Empress Volume 7. Spoiler alert. I also did read Volume 8 this month in April. I can't really tell you much about it, y'all. I'm too like knee deep in the series to talk about anything within that specific volume that wouldn't spoil it for you. I can wholeheartedly say that if you have not started The Remarried Empress as a series yet, you are missing out on one of the best manhwa series that I have read since I started reading manhwa a couple of years ago. Or maybe it was last year. Did I just start reading manhwa last year? I feel like I've been reading it a lot longer than that, but it could have just been last year. It is the best one that I've come across yet. And I have been trying to really dive into manhwa, and I love this series so much. I literally eat it up. Once I sit down to read a volume, it's like I'm sad. Like it is what it is. Volume 7 was no different. 5 stars. 5 stars. If you don't know anything about it, it literally follows an empress who is married to, of course, the emperor. They've been betrothed since they were kids. They were close. They were best friends growing up, and everything was going well until homeboy went and got himself a mistress. ... And then he wanted to cut up and treat his mistress better than his wife. Not just your wife, but your best friend that you've known for years. And you put the mistress above her. That's wild. And so she get her lick back. And that's all I'm going to say. Oh, she get her lick back. And I'm living for every single moment. Every single moment. But yeah, y'all, that's it. This is probably going to be the shortest wrap up that I will ever do. You know why? Because I'm glad I vlogged. Because all my reviews are in those vlogs. And we weren't going to rehash those reviews here. This is just a wrap up of everything I read with statistics and anything else that was not included in those vlogs. So there is that, and that is it. And I'm getting delusional. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, click the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. If you're looking for ways to support this channel, all the links will be down in the description box below. If you're looking to follow me on social media, all those links will be down in the description box below as well. And I'll be back with another video soon. Toodles, like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Oh, toodles. All right, yeah, I'm logging off. Bye.